The Washington football team is back off their bye week, and they are headed into the second half of the season. And at game time, the temperatures were in the mid 70s in November. And for the first time, the Washington football team is allowing fans in the stands. We'll talk about that and a lot more when Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus is coming up next. And we have fans finally in the stands again. Tell me about being able to come back today.
It's awesome. Yeah. Love it.
I'm excited.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus television show here on the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. Let's welcome our co-host this week, the former chaplain of the Washington football team, Mr. Milton Harding. A man Tom Knott once called Mad Mike, the mouthpiece of NCAA maniacs, Mike Baker. Washington football team beat reporter and member of the Fairmont University women's basketball 1,000-point club, Miss Donna Hopkins. One of the most prolific pass catchers in the 20th century, and four-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl wide receiver Gary Clark. And a man who played in the NFL for 14 seasons, and one of the all-time sack leaders in the NFL, Super Bowl pass rusher Tony Mac the Sack McGee.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. We are here to talk about the Washington football team. Got a chance to go to the playoffs. That's a good thing. Everybody at NFC East can go to the playoffs. The other thing is they don't need to let none of them go because they don't play that well. Here we are with the game. We got Mike here. We got Donna. We got Gary. And we bring in a man that can catch punts behind his back. Mike Niels. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, T, thank you.
Okay. Hey, let's throw it on the table right now. No NFC team need to even be in the playoffs. And the Washington team let the worst team beat them twice. Only 2 wins they have. But with that being said, I saw some good things from that team on Sunday.
Hey, Tony, the Giants are not the worst team because they've been winning lately. But the thing about it is...
They won 2 games, Donna, both against the Reds.
Hey, they beat the Washington football team. But, Tony, you cannot win a game with 5 turnovers. They had 2 right off of their first 2 possessions. They had one with the fumble with Gibson, and then they had one on special teams. But then, they had that injury to Cal Allen, another major injury. Alex Smith comes in, struggles in the first half, but he does produce in the second half. But big kudos out to 2 main receivers like Terry McLaurin, 9 catches for over 100 and some yards. Cam Sims, who you haven't heard much of, but he's starting to step in. He had 4 catches for over 100 and some yards, but it's the running game, Tony, once again, that's only netted 37 yards on 9 carries. How can you produce a running game just having 9 carries? That has to be able to produce a lot more if this team is not going to be one-dimensional.
It ain't how you produce a running game. How do you produce a win? But let's digress and go back to those receivers, G. They still stepping up. And you know what I like about them? And I know you're going to like this. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. The receivers have been productive.
Yeah, I mean, they've been playing well. It was good to see Sims back out there playing well. He came out and he showed out, quite honestly. He must have averaged over 20 yards a catch easily. So it's nice to see those see those players come in. But like Donna said, the turnovers is really, really what hurt this team. If you take those turnovers away, we win the game handily. I mean, you take those turnovers away, we win the game easily.
But and they were early turnovers. And Mike, if you take a look at this team, tell me in the past few weeks, what have you seen that have improved? Now, I'm going to tell you, you may think I'm crazy, but I see improvement in this team. Even though they do not have the record that you like to see, this team is showing us that in the future they can win. And when I say future, I'm talking about a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, they seemed to, when they first played Philadelphia that first time, they played like their hair was on fire. And I love that. And I haven't seen quite it at that level since then.
You think, I mean, offensively, Mike, how are they ever going to get at a level and they're running for 37 yards?
I'd have to be in the film room. I'd have to be able to break it down and look and see who's not doing their job. Man, my running back is good. He's a great Gordon.
Antonio Gibson.
Gibson. Yeah, I'm talking Gordon. Gibson. Love his feet, love his vision, love everything about him, except lack of concentration there when he fumbled that ball. He's a bad boy.
I like him, but I still feel like our best running back is in Detroit. Mike Baker.
Yes, sir.
Offensive line.
You can call me Bake. You always have.
Shake and bake.
Shake and
so
bake.
Offensive line.
I got to tell you about this.
Any improvement?
Donna,
I may mess around and get you out there in a uniform.
Yeah, I'm ready. Donna's always tipped me in these Monday press conferences, so I've been watching them, Donna, faithfully. You'll be proud of me. I heard the most fascinating discussion about the offensive line today. He was asked pointedly how in the world the Giants ran all over basically this team, or why we could not run on this team. He said, well, they've got to hold their blocks. Obviously, their creases there, and they've got to hold those creases. They've got to proceed and not let anybody through those creases. And that was the extent of his discussion. But on the chalkboard, you'll see that you're right. Alex is going to start versus the Lion. And he did say about the lack of rushing and the inability to stop them. It's all about the creases, both on the offensive and the defensive line. I found that an interesting discussion.
Well, he kind of gave you
being vertical and disruptive
answers.
And then he said that we're actually in the race in the NFC East. He did not say whether Allen is going to need surgery or not. Why did he avoid that question? Apparently, and then sort of alluded to it in the discussion. And I just don't know, Tony. I'm so confused at this point.
You know what? Did you guys know that Mike never really answered that question?
Never
gave us the vanilla answer. If the offensive line getting the job done,
no.
Well, no, Tony.
No.
Definitely,
do they have the talent to get it done?
They not. But I'm going to go and let you hear what the coach had to say about the game and some of the players.
The thing about Alex as the starter right now is you have a guy that's a very veteran quarterback that has helped to nurture and develop a couple of pretty good young quarterbacks. It just kind of showed these guys how to study and prepare for a game, how to handle it. And I think this is going to be very good for Dwayne. I think Dwayne's going to get an opportunity to truly see how to prepare for a game as a starter. And I think, and hopefully, Dwayne will take it that way, that this is an opportunity to learn and grow. And then, who knows, he may get his opportunity again shortly, but he's just got to be ready and prepare as if he's really one play away.
But we were so young, and I mean that in a positive way. We have such, these guys have such good energy. They bring so much juice every single day, and that's what makes it so fun. Certainly for me, try to be around these guys. But yeah, I think that's really what's important for us is to kind of continue to grow and get better. No off season, we're still making up ground, and I think important to kind of keep improving and stuff. Is some of obviously no one likes to lose. Certainly like that out there, and when we had a chance to get it like this, I thought. For a lot of guys, we spread the ball around. Obviously, Terry's always a big part of what we do, but certainly there were a lot of guys that got involved today, a lot of young guys, and made plays for us, and it was fun to see.
And we just got to minimize the mistakes. We're not at the level where we can overcome too many mistakes. So, that's the biggest thing going into this week. You got to play cleaner. Alex is great to have him because he's played a lot of football for us. And, he knows what it takes to put a full week of practice together and be a part of the game plan and execute. And, I'm even encouraging Dwayne to be ready because, he's going to be next man up as well. So everybody has to be all hands on deck and be ready for their moment.
My dad always said, just be prepared for any situation. So my opportunity came and I was prepared.
I think the key thing right there is if anybody is questioning why Coach Rivera picked Alex Smith to be his starting quarterback going into the next week, he explained that clearly. And he also said a lot of other things about Dwayne Haskins being ready, learning from a veteran quarterback moving forward. And Alex Smith did play much better in the second half of the game, even though he had the 3 interceptions, but you could see him starting to get comfortable and he's starting to knock the rust out. So he should be able to connect and Gary will know about a quarterback and a receiver getting in tune with each other, and he should have that opportunity in practice this coming week.
Wait a minute, you're saying that the G-Man, do you mean get into it like want to beat up your coach or get into it to become G? I'm gonna ask you this, man. You was on the field, I think, when Joe got hurt.
Yeah, actually, it was a pass to me.
It was?
Yeah.
What do you think Alex felt on Sunday when he knew he was going in, just seen another guy get hurt, similar injury, same place, and here he's going in and he knew he was going to be in the whole game? Take me through what you think he would think in his mind.
You know what, I think because, it wasn't the first time he had came in after somebody that got hurt. A few weeks ago, he got a chance to come in after somebody got hurt. And I thought he played well now. I think him as a starter, I think his production and the way he plays is going to be even better. I think you take away those 3 interceptions, and he has a great game. He has a great game. You take away those interceptions because he threw a couple of nice touchdown passes there to those guys, and he understands the game. That's what I like best about Alex. He understands the game. So, for just a person to come back and go through the practice of it, the game part's always easy for me, but he went through the practices on that leg, when people aren't paying attention, practices, that's when most people get hurt, quite honestly, is during practice, not really during the game. And he's a tough hombre. I'm excited to see what he does starting from the first play to the last play. I wouldn't bet against him. That's how much faith I have in him because he's always won. No matter where he's been, he's always won.
And I feel as you do, and I think once he gets that real big hit in and he's all right, I think he'll be back to where he was and maybe even better. You're always going to think about your injury, but at the same time, once you get past that, it's out of the game. But Mike, on this offense, right now, if they're trying to make the playoffs, what facet of the team need to up their play more than any of them?
I would say yards after catch, yards per carry. It's just simple. Put it on. You can either put it on the guys that are blocking or the guys that are running. Runners make blockers look good, and blockers make runners look good. So, you can put it on both of them.
Yeah, because the receivers will come through, Tony. You already know that.
You didn't wait to get. We're going to take a break on that one. Gary's always with the receiver. But when we come back, we're going to talk about a defense that we called them the wall. They weren't even the fence on Sunday. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to the jungle. And what we do here in the jungle is we destroy animals. We're not talking about animals today. We're talking about football players. And when we look at a football team that you see has potential, you do not live up to that potential, then you look back at these Super Bowl guys that I got on the screen right here and know that they know what it takes to win. We got to look at this team, and it's always come down to good offense, good defense, special teams. The defense was not very good, Donna, on Sunday.
No, indeed, Tony. And I'm glad that you came to me first because They're
I know you want to throw them under the bus. You just waiting your opportunity.
Tony, I never put them under the bus unless they belong under the wheels. But their run defense is what is hurting them right now. They gave up 166 yards on the ground. Again, they start off slow. They 20-3 at the half, but it's the run defense that seems like it's the problem for them because they're still giving up those big chunk plays. And to me, they haven't really solved the problem of how to stop the run. What's going on right there, Tony? You can't afford to give up 166 yards.
When you're giving up that kind of yardage, you're not controlling your side of the line of scrimmage. If all of you guys and you fans watch the game sometime, whichever line of scrimmage is being moved, if the offense is being moved back or the defense is being moved back, that's the one that's losing the game. And that's what happened on Sunday. But it was not just the running game. They did not get any pass rush. Tell me about all these guys that we've been calling the wall. They've been doing this, and they don't even know what the quarterback's jersey number was.
Hey, Tony, you did have that former Washington Redskin that came in running with a purpose.
Wait a minute. Wait. Everybody hold right here. I will admit, 5 minutes ago, I did say the skin word. So I owe $1. But Gary just said it then.
Putting it down.
Put it in, Gary.
Well, you know what, Tony? We already had this conversation. When you're a Super Bowl champion, you're allowed to say it.
You're not.
Not NFC championship winner, like Super Bowl championship winner. You're allowed to say those things.
Yeah.
Also, being Mike and you can, but Donna and Bate can't, huh?
No, we can't. Alfred Morris, though, that's the story.
I'm telling you, that boy
9 carries, 70 yards.
He
That came in. He had 2 20-yard gains against this premier defense. He was Alfred Morris and Graham Gano, 2 former Washington football players. I hate it when we play teams and our former players beat us.
But it's always going to be like that. But Mike, you play, and you know what, fans, a lot of you guys, and you may not remember now, and a lot of the young right now may not even have the knowledge, but Mike was not just a great return man. He was one of our best defensive backs, but he was so good at the return, they would never let him play it. Am I right, Mike? I want to ask you, tell me about these defensive backs. Where do you see improvement needed and improvement made?
Covering. Our guys don't cover one-on-one very well. They're always a step behind or out of position. They've got to learn how to have people in the position they want them to be in, as opposed to them being in the position that they want to be in. The defense, you need to give him where you want him to be. Don't let him take where he wants space at. Gary knows. I mean, Gary gets the space he wants. I got to stop him from doing that. I got to put him where I want to put him. So, and you do that by footwork and jamming them and a bunch of other things.
Now that's knowledge. And Gary, you know exactly what he's talking about.
Oh, 100%. You know, like Mike said, a defensive back is trying to take your space away, and we're trying to create space. So it becomes that chess game where, you know, if Mike's playing me, he's going to try to make sure that I don't have the space that I need to get open, and that's the key for him. You got a defensive back just like Mike and other great defensive backs. They take your space away, and when you get your space taken away, that's hard. You know, everybody talks about speed and all that. So for a receiver, they really need to be quick, and the defensive back needs to be quick as well as fast, because you know they have angles. That's the best thing about angles. You can be a 4'6" defensive back and keep up with a 4'2" receiver all day long if you play the right angles and you take away those space. The key is quickness, because I'm just trying to create space long enough for that ball to get into me. You know, defensive back, they have a hard job anyhow, as it's a hard job, period, just to stop a receiver. But when you find the ones like Mike and other defensive backs who come in and they're shut down corners, you really have to take your hat off to those individuals, because it's hard to cover an average receiver as a defensive back, because we know where the ball is going. They do not, you know, so yeah. I can say that sometimes it seems like they do know where the ball is going. The ones that are really, really good, it seems like they do know where the ball is going, but for the most part, they don't.
Yeah, so Mike, tell me about the wall. What's happening with the wall? Each and every week we're saying that their play has diminished. Each and every week, Donna gets the opportunity to put them down, but she's not telling it. She's telling the truth.
What
They're not playing the way they were playing, and they're not as dominant.
Well, one thing I did watch a little bit of that, and I watched it when I got home last night. I watched the replay of the game. I think Young is he's starting to show up a little more. He had an impact on that game, Tony. He only had 1 sack, but he had a number of hurries. Payne, no sacks. Allen, a half a sack, along with Kerrigan. Sweat is coming off of a concussion. He did play, but he wasn't much of a factor in that game, and for whatever reason. But Settle is a great cleanup guy in there. You could see Young one time flush the quarterback out of the pocket right into Settle's arms. That was a beautiful play to watch. But Settle does clean up well. He really does clean up that middle well when he's playing.
Mike, Don, I'm gonna have to go along with you now. If you listen to Mike with that rosy subscription of how they played and everything, you would think that they won the game.
Thank you.
How did they play, Donna?
Tony, the defense, and Mike is always trying to give them grades and the whole team grades each week. You see that he didn't do that this week because I'm not giving the defense below a C- because they did not play well. I mean, they got 5 sacks, but like you said, really, you didn't even hear about that because the play was poor in certain areas. The linebacker play, Tony, is one that we've been questioning all year long. But let's go to the tape and hear what they got to say about the linebacker position, because they talked about forcing turnovers. Well, they didn't do that on Sunday.
The difference is just we didn't start fast, and we've been preaching that all year. We've got to play a full 60-minute ball game on offense, defense, and special teams. Everybody's got to be able to play together. And if we're only putting 30 minutes together, a good 45 minutes, we're not going to win too many ball games. So for us, we've got to put a full 60 minutes together today. We didn't give our offense any type of momentum. Their defense, that was one thing they did a good job on defense. They were turning the ball over, setting their offense up in good field position sometimes. That creates momentum. And for us, we didn't do that for offense. So that is definitely a reason why we lost this ball game today. As a team, we know we're right there. But right there, we can't keep talking about it. We got to make sure when we're putting this preparation during the week, we are practicing hard. We like the way we're practicing. We just got to make those plays in the game when the time comes.
Right there, Tony, doesn't matter if you don't get that W.
If I look at my paperwork, you lost the game when your team ran for 37 yards and the other team ran for 166. Don't give me all of that. I'm going to just tell you, and I played defense. If we hold them to 17 points and you do your job and you stop the run, you can win games without the good receivers and everything. We played without receivers a lot. Oh, no, we did. But at the same time, what I'm saying is they did not do their job, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I will say when they improve, but when you run for 37 yards, your offensive line is not blocking. And when they run for 166, your defensive line is not stopping them. And those two teams, the offensive defensive line, they're practicing against each other doing practice. So that tells me they're not doing much in practice. Mike?
Oh.
Mike.
And Mike.
That's right.
Mike and Mike.
Bacon, shake it up, Bacon.
I got to shake it up for you. I'm going to stick up for this team because the press conference that Don and I saw today, Coach talked about all the players on this team, first year, second year, third year players, like 8/10 of the team has only been there for 3 years. And now that I'm not.
What does that matter?
Right.
Well, I'm saying that there are players that are starting to shine. And if you look at Cameron Curl, 11 total tackles. He was our defensive player of the week. 6 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, 2 quarterback hits. And I mean, he's really stepping up as a rookie. You might have a real time.
You proved my point, though. You proved my point, Mike. He's a rookie and he's making those plays already. It does not matter whether you're 1 year or you're 10 years. At the end of the day, you play. You
know what, Mike? What I'm so surprised with, you and Milt look totally different, but y'all vernacular is the same. You're a homie too. You done made all kind of excuses. It's time to quit making excuses. Everybody's in this pandemic. Everybody got people hurt. Everybody got young players. Everybody got hurt quarterback, and they can't beat the Giants.
And Tony, they keep saying that the defense, all I hear about them is saying is we can't afford to start slow. We've been hearing that all season long. We're in what, the second half of the season, and we're still hearing we're starting slow. Well, why are you starting slow? You need to speed it up and produce in the beginning of the game. 60-minute game. It's not 30, 40, 50, 60.
Nimco, I always come to you. When you look at this Washington defense, what area does it need to improve in most? Now, we've seen the defensive line does have the ability to dominate a game, but they only dominate 1 out of 3 games. We've seen the linebackers finally start stepping it up, but then they go backwards the next week. We've seen the defensive backs learning how to play their position, but which of these 3 positions need to improve quickly if they are going to save this year?
You need improvement at all of them, because at any given moment, anybody can give the team what they need. Linebackers can, create that environment that gets everybody excited. DBs can make the play to get everybody pumped. The line can get that sack, man, at a timely time. But anybody and everybody needs to produce. I don't expect it, and I don't put the pressure on any one part of it. I'll put it on all of them. At some point, somebody needs to shine.
Gary, we got about 30 seconds. Nimco got a point. He don't put it on all of them, but on the championship teams, which we had the honor to play on, you do put it on the ones that don't get the job done. Am I correct? You got to go and tell them in the face. We used to be mad when our team came off and they went 3 and out after we'd have held them. You got to get in their face, G, do you not?
I'd be interested to see what the conversation is among the player to player. That's really what I need to hear to make an understanding of what's going on, because the conversation that players have with one another really lets you know the tone of the team, who the leaders on the team are.
So, we got a little stop there. When we come back, we're going to do a little special teams. As you know, Mike Nims was our special team man. G-Man was so good as receiver, he didn't play special teams.
Each other respect one another. So that's not why I didn't play special teams. Mike, this is why.
You heard that, Tony. He heard that.
You can't, don't tell everybody, man, because I know what you were talking about. And when we get back, we'll talk about that. We'll be on the couch when we get back. We'll be back in a second. Well, as you know, we always talk about 3 facets of the team: offense, defense, special teams. We also have lamented this year about how the special teams do not seem to make the plays they need to play. So what we do, we are going to get on the couch like every weekend junkie football player do. I'm getting on the couch with Gary and Mike and ask them a couple of questions. Mike, return men. One thing we keep saying about this Washington team, we do not see a big return. I always remember the game, and you'll remember we played the Raiders. We beat them in overtime. I remember that the special teams coach, what was his name, Mike? Our special teams coach? Oh, he was
Wayne
he was crazy.
Yes, he was.
He came to Mike. He said, we need one. Mike went down and ripped off about 70 yards, just like that. The Washington team doesn't have that, Mike.
No, they don't. The teams have been somewhat disappointing because Washington has an appreciation for special teams that other teams don't have. And for that void to be here is really confusing and frustrating. I don't see the pride in being on special teams. I don't see the hustle. I don't see the physicality. A lot is lacking. I don't know what the deal is, but it's not there.
Gee, on the coverage, and one thing, we had some guys, Wansley, we had crazy linebacker. We had people that they covered everything. I don't see that now. I don't see them trapping them down deep in their field. I don't see a punt where they're covering and making them get bad field position. What do they need to do? Do you need faster people? Do you need more physical people?
I think the best thing that Joe did was he had Wayne Sevier, and that was just important as the offense. It was just important as the defense. When you play special team, you started on special team. You was a starter on special team. Like you was a starter on offense, you're a starter on defense, you're a starter on special team. That was a privilege to be a starter on special teams. And those guys looked at it that way. So when they was coming down, they was coming down. When they was returning, they were returning. Again, two best special return guys, in my opinion, in Washington football team history, Mike Nams, Brian Mitchell. Those two boys understood what it meant to be like, when I need something, you're going to give me something. And that's important to know, because some guys, they just can't give you what you need at that critical time. You know, the best thing about Mike and Brian, it'd be a critical time when we needed something. They would go out and they would make a big play that gives you that momentum, like Mike talked about earlier, gives you momentum to carry on. If they didn't break it all the way, all of a sudden you're past midfield. Well, if I pass midfield and I got the ball, if my offense or anything, we're going to at least come away with 3, if not 7. So it's such an important, I just don't know if they put the importance on it as we had in the past, like Mike had said in the past. It was, when you talked about special teams, like you was talking about the offense, like you was talking about the defense, there was no like, well, they just play special teams. That was not in Washington football team history. It was not that way. It was a true segment of what it took for us to win football games.
Well, you look at our 2 kickers, Mike, when we played, and you look at the 2 kickers now, how did they measure up to our kickers that we had when we played? And we had Mark Mosley, and he the last straight on kicker in the league. And I can't remember, we had 2 or 3 punters, but what do you see with Hopkins and Tressway, even though Mike makes him the MVP every week? Do you see?
Tressway's a bad boy. You have to give it to him. And he gets us out of a lot of jams. And Hopkins did well last week. But I mean, that's what he's supposed to do.
Thank you.
We should give him more opportunities, and he should really be able to shine even brighter.
Okay, so I always ask this question. If this team is going to do anything, and even in this East, they still have opportunity, where can we get that special team play? These are usually the players that are not on the field every play. They're there to do special teams. You guys can even remember, like, I don't know if Wayne did this when you were playing, but Mike, I remember Mike was so good that we used to have that little film session on Monday where they had the great plays out there. And for a long time, they didn't use special teams, but Mike made so many plays that they added in at least special team plays. You remember that, Mike?
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't see that now.
I don't know. See, I'm not in the field house. I'm not at Redskins, at Washington Park.
Mike, you're going to have to come back and pay your dollar.
Yeah.
But, I just look at it, and I'm not trying to be critical of these guys. I'm trying to be realistic.
Yeah.
And one thing you guys know, both of you were great players, and I'm not just saying that because we were teammates or anything. And when you look at these players, you only have 1, 2, 3 opportunities maybe to get to the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. Every year counts. Every moment counts. Every teammate is important. That continuity is what I do not see on this team yet.
I'll tell you what, Tony, it's the perfect opportunity for a young man playing special teams to stand out. Because now you can stand out and you can become that guy that everybody said, oh, he's a beast. Perfect example. In our city, one of the top announcers who gets more appearances than anything is Brian Mitchell. He's a return guy.
Yeah.
That does not happen in most cities. It just does not. But because we put such an emphasis on it, Mike Nams and Brian Mitchell are household names in the DC metropolitan area. Why? Because they came out and they made plays. When you make plays, then you stand out. Now, it doesn't have to be just returning the ball. You could be that person who comes down and makes that hit constantly, all the time, always, like Reggie Branch, always, Raymond Caldwell, always coming in, always in the play. So all of a sudden now you point those guys out, just like you point out a good quarterback, a good receiver, a good running back. You point out a good special team guy. Onis Wadley automatically comes up everybody's name. If you watch special team in DC for that hit guy, this Otis Swanson, whoever ever thought a running back would be the guy that's bringing the pain.
Exactly. And Otis did pretty well when he run the ball too.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying, but I'm just talking about you did not expect that because that's typically a defensive-minded person that's making those hits, not an offensive-minded person. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to get away from those hits. I'm not trying to get hit. But you got these individuals that are coming down and they bring the pain, and they know every year they're going to make the team because they stand out on special teams.
And they knew they was important. And Mike, you want to say something? We got about 30 seconds here.
No, that was a very good point, Clarkster. You hit the nail on the head.
All right, we're going to take a little break now. We'll bring Mike and Donna back. Donna is in the homer, Mike is, but at the same time, we'll talk about a league that is changing. We'll be back in a moment. Now, when you start talking about the league, and as I said, when we were going out to the commercial, the league is changing. And you can take a look at that on Sunday, how when you talk about Brady losing the way he lost to the Saints, now you have to start thinking about, are the Saints the NFC best team?
Oh, I think
since you never wait, Mike, I'm gonna get you. Since you never bet against Brady.
That is true, and I didn't bet against Brady, but I did say that if a team could beat them, it could be New Orleans. But I still didn't bet against them. I still didn't bet against them.
Yeah.
I did say that could happen because, come on, they got a good quarterback too.
We all watched that game. It looked like Brady, I won't say he had a little bit of give up on his face, but I think he knew he was in for a long evening. And actually eventually they pulled him out. But I think he was really surprised at the way New Orleans played and how far behind he was at the half.
Why would you be
I don't think you were surprised.
Why would you be surprised how
They have the number one defense. Tampa Bay is the number one defense, people. Come on.
Yeah, we know that Todd Bowles, a former Washington player, is the coordinator. But when it happened to Brady, and I think they turned the tables on him, pressure. They got pressure on him early, made him back into sacks. He was not the Tom Brady. He was not the GOAT. Okay, Donna, talk to me.
But Tony, I think you hit it on the nail. Is you can't pick one team from week to week because the Saints had struggled in the last two games, but then they came up and they look like a totally different team. They were able to run the ball. They've got receivers that's gone. Thomas was gone, but some of the other guys stepped up and played big. But when you look around the league in general, it's not like from one week to the other, you pick one team and you like, I know they're going to win. But look, Seattle lost. Pittsburgh is the only undefeated team right now. Baltimore came back and beat up on the Colts. But Pittsburgh is the only one that you could say, hey, no one has beat them yet.
Well, you know, Mike, with that being said, do you think now that Dallas stayed in the game with Pittsburgh on Sunday that their confidence will come back and they may think they can win the division now?
Anybody can win our division.
Exactly. And
what you think, Nimco? You think they're going to be that way? You know, Dallas, all they do is look for a little edge. You think they'll get one?
Man, I don't put anything past Dallas Cowboys. I like I always say, we only have to win 2 games a year to make me happy.
And
that's the 2 games. Wait a minute. The only thing that make me happy, you lose the Giants 2 times in a row. Hey, Mike, is Tua for real? Mike, not you. That might, okay, shake and bake. Is Tua for real?
Yeah, I do think so. He's 2-0. And of course, everybody wondered when they took out Fitzpatrick, when the team was playing really well, if he was making the right move. But obviously, they must have seen something at practice that they were very impressed with. He's not making mistakes. He's exceedingly mobile. And he's got a rocket for a left arm. And
can you see, he throw that ball so smooth. And for all of you fans who don't know, Tua is the young man from Alabama, and he got hurt last year. Miami drafted him. Miami has turned everything around. So now I go to you down and say, is Trubisky, is he the answer?
No, Tony, Nick Foles, I mean, that's like a revolving door. But I think that Nick Foles has proven when he was with Philadelphia and he's come to Chicago that, to me, he's the better quarterback right now. They just have so many other problems. But I think that if Chicago is going to move forward, Nick Foles is the quarterback to stick with.
If you had the guys, and anybody can answer this if you want to, if you had to pick two teams right now to end up in the Super Bowl, where would you go? Now, Kansas City, yes, on Sunday they pulled the game out. Okay, and we did see Baltimore come back and look pretty good. But right now, I just do not see, and maybe it is the Saints, but I do not see a domineering team, because if you think back, and we digress back to 2 weeks ago, they was kind of talking like the Saints quarterback, hey, his arm was gone. Then he comes Sunday and have a great game. And then you look at the Baltimore quarterback, he's the wizard, didn't even know how to get out of his way. Then you look at Kansas City, if that quarterback don't make a million plays and he got tons of talent, they don't win. So what teams can we look at, guys?
I'm looking at Pittsburgh and Kansas City because
I don't know if Pittsburgh could take a big running team, Donna.
But
they got a good defense, but they small.
But Tony, that was one game, and Dallas, I mean, that was one good game for them too, but they still didn't win. But until you beat Pittsburgh, to me, they got the defensive line, the offensive line, the quarterback, running game, receivers. They are a complete team. And Kansas City, I don't care if Mahomes got to throw 1,000 times, as long as they come with the W. Nobody seemed to be able to beat them with just that one guy. So I think that they're complete with their coach also, that makes them so much better. So those two teams I'm looking at, their NFC, you can just pick your poison because it changes from week to week.
You know what? Yeah, I was just going to say, Tony, that New Orleans has something that no other team has. I mean, they've got not only Alvin Kamara running the ball, but when you bring in the quarterback, Jason Hill, who is a beast. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. And then, of course, you have Drew Brees. There was no answer to that on the game on Monday night. There was just no answer to those two quarterbacks in that game. And they have two good lines. And New Orleans players are coming back. They're getting healthy. They got a great defense. You know what? New Orleans is a team to beat all the way around.
Why do you think Washington? Don't forget about Washington.
Thank you, G. And I'm gonna ask these two Super Bowl champions. Who do you guys see? Now, you guys know we go on the premise that a team has to be strong at every position, and the coach make every player as important on the team in his position as the next one. Do you guys see two teams, one from the NFC or the AFC, that's like that?
Kansas City, Tampa Bay.
Okay, like that. After Sunday, I don't know about Tampa Bay. That may have just been something that happened
right now. All that's doing is pissing Brady off.
Who's going to show up?
I think so. What'd you say, Nimco?
Whoever shows up. I mean, you gotta bet that Tom will show up. How many times does Tom not show up? And how many times is he gonna not have the team ready? But man, anybody could clock out at any minute now, like Donna was saying. I mean, yeah, you gotta.
But you see, we all know what happened when you talk bad about Tom. Like last year, they were saying like they couldn't do. When you talk bad about them, we all see it, we'll see what happens.
Well, you know what? We're gonna have to take a break now. And it seems like the election isn't over here either. We still fighting over votes. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to the potpourri of the show. We are going to talk about a lot of different things now, but one thing we have to start talking about, Adrian Peterson. He will be facing a team that one year they didn't even give it the credit to let him dress, and then they traded him the next year, and he was the best running back. So I just want to know, what do you guys think about Washington playing the Detroit? I think it's going to be very, very dangerous.
Considering that the defense has been giving up a lot of yards against the run, you expect Adrian Peterson to have a 100+ yard game. Hopefully you hope that doesn't happen, but considering the way this run defense has played, and Detroit is just not a walk in the park either. They thought they were going to beat the Giants. Everybody just gave them the check. But the Detroit Lions are a decent team, Tony, and Matt Stafford will be back in his second start after being out with the COVID situation.
Go ahead, G.
Anytime you come back and play against a team that you once was on, you tend to play with a little bit more fire inside yourself. You try to make sure that you take that step to the next level, and it's definitely going to be interesting because I'm the team captain. I'm definitely the team MVP. How do I get cut? I'm the team MVP. That would be hard for me to swallow, and it's just it's going to be interesting. I still think we're going to win, but it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure.
Mike, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, if Alfred Morris got 70 yards on 9 carries and 2 20-yard rushes, can you imagine what AP is going to do to the Washington defense? I'm going to say 140 yards. And because they used to call him Stone Hands, at least some people did, I predict at least 1 reception for a touchdown.
Oh, he's going to want to do it all. And
Alfred under the bus, though. Alfred's a bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at his yards per carry over his career, he's a bad boy.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know why we ever got rid of him to start with.
Thank you. That's what I was about to say. And Nemco, you know how it was when you played. Whenever we got a chance to go against a team or a person or a player that you played with or you dislike or something, you seem like your game just elevated.
Almost definitely. Yeah, you can't wait you're scratching to get out. And that's all you need for AP to do. I mean, he always showed up, didn't he?
Yes, he did. One of the most aggressive running backs, and it's the kind that you can see his body he's working so hard to do stuff. And now we got guys here that the whole team can't get 37 yards.
Yeah, Tony, if you look at AP's production since this year in Detroit, he's had a lot of those 100-yard games or close to those 100-yard games, and he is their feature back. So, you got to be ready because he's looking, like you said, to come here mad because they let him go, but,
Yeah, you all call
Mike,
one.
Yeah,
you take those games where he had the great games and put him on this Washington team. Where do you think this Washington team would be right now? Now, don't be acting like you don't know what I'm saying.
Top of our division.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, babe. Give me an answer.
Are you talking which Mike? Are you talking
you?
I got you on this one. I want to ask one question because you think I'm such a homer. I'm going to ask this question. I can't understand why you would listen to the head coach of the Washington football team say how valuable Alex Smith is because he sets an example for all the young quarterbacks and what an example and how great it is to have him on the team. They better stick with him and then turn around and say that AP is not needed, that essentially they want to move on to younger players. Can you imagine? We have not had a bona fide, they have not had a bona fide rushing game. One game, I guess it was against Dallas, where they had over 100 yards. But I just want to know why in the world AP couldn't have been a good model for the young running backs on this team. It didn't make any sense to me how an older quarterback does, but an older running back has no significance.
He didn't say he wasn't needed, Mike. He was just saying that he was going to the younger guys in building for the future. Now, it was a numbers game. You have to make those tough decisions as a coach. I wish they wouldn't have let him go, but
they wish that too right now.
I hate to keep bringing up election, but Mike, when you don't answer a question, they coming after you.
That's
they coming after you. When you are a homer, they coming after you. We only got a few. And Mike, we got to do the picks. Talk to me about this.
All right, we want to talk a little bit about these teams. We got some good ones coming up, and as you can see, I'm in first place this week.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got Tony at 22-13, Gary at 23-12. You guys don't, Gary doesn't even watch all the games that I do, and how in the world is he beating me?
Because he jump on you every week, and you wouldn't find the game for him to get ahead of me last week.
Because he is my favorite receiver all time. Anyway, 23-12, Donna, you're hanging in there. Milt sunk, 18-16. And I am below 500 for the first time in 36 years. I love it.
Bottom of the barrel.
First time ever. I don't know what's going on with me. All right, you got a good one this week. You saw how Carolina played. Kansas City was so lucky to pull that game out. Tampa Bay at Carolina. You don't have to make picks, but what do you guys think about that game?
Well, the only thing I think about that game is something that was said prior in this segment that you made Grady, you made him mad now, Brady mad. And I think Carolina's a good team. Don't not get me wrong, but Brady is mad.
Yeah. Arizona was definitely surprised. I think they really thought that they were going to beat Miami. That was a great shootout. Now you got Buffalo, who surprised everybody going into Arizona. What do you do with that?
That's gonna be a good game.
Those are all hard games. Wow.
Yeah.
They can't handle Buffalo.
Yeah.
Plus, Buffalo's quarterback went to the University of Wyoming. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But now you got Miami, who's playing well, and you got Justin Herbert going in, who's playing really well for the Chargers. That kid looks like he's been playing for 5-6 years, and he's going into Miami to face Tua. That's another crucial game. I have no idea on that.
Well, when you have an offensive tackle playing quarterback.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Dangerous. They are dangerous, but they got too many injuries. Hey, Mike, bring it on in. What do you think about him, G? Mike?
About what's the question?
About the Miami and the Chargers. Who you think win that game?
Miami.
I got you.
That was hesitating.
Yeah. I don't know. Chargers, I think could outshoot them, but then I'm 16-19 or something, right? How about Houston at Cleveland? Is Cleveland a sinking ship, everybody?
I think so, but now Houston is, because now their best player on defense have told him that he wants to leave next year.
Ooh.
And they got rid of Hopkins, and they just haven't really built that team up.
And now for the division championship in the great NFC East, Philadelphia at New York Giants. The Giants are talking as if they can somehow come back and take this division. But Philadelphia has the lead, at least for now. What do you guys think about Philly at Giants?
That's a toss-up because both teams, I mean, you know, who's going to come out and play well? The Giants have played better in the last few games, and Philadelphia has struggled. So it's just a toss-up between teams in the East.
Well, I feel like this. If the Giants win this game, they'll be in first place. I don't need to say nothing else. So we'll be back. When we come back next week, hopefully we can talk a little bit positive thing. But all of us, as you can see, fans, we are terrified by Detroit coming in here with a mad running back that is still good. So Mike, thanks. Nemco, thanks for coming on the show. Guys, thanks for giving us a good show this week. When we come back next week, let's hope that we are close to first place. But as I always say, never goodbye in the minute.